TAF Africa Global brings you exquisite yet affordable state-of-the-art commercial rental spaces available at Madiba Mall, located at Brewfoot Gardens Estate. These commercial spaces comes with facilities such as 24-hour security, standby backup generator, air-conditioned spaces, conference room, and personal cash power meters. If you are looking for a spacious and suitable business environment, look no further. Madiba Mall retail and commercial spaces are just what you need. Call us today and reserve a space. For more information, please call 733-3363 or 594-1053, or you can send an email to info@tafafricaglobal.com.
Welcome to the TAF Hub. This is a brand new show brought to you by TAF Africa Global to educate you on real estate business and all the information you need to know about real estate.
After 45 years of construction and real estate development in 8 African countries, it is time to share my experience, and it can only be done in the TAF Hub. We will be inviting experts who will give you facts and the right regulations on real estate development.
Join us every week on our social media platforms for an exciting show.
You can also watch us on JRTS TV every Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
Hello, and welcome again to the TAF Hub. As said in previous programs, the TAF Hub is here to bring about awareness to the general public about real estate issues in the Gambia and also across the sub-Saharan Africa. Today, we have with us Mr. Kimbeng Tah, who is the Principal State Counsel at the Attorney General's Chambers and Minister of Justice. Mr. Tah, you're welcome to the TAF Hub.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njie. It's a pleasure to be on TAF Hub.
We're here because we think that it is an absolute need to create a platform where we will bring people of your caliber, people of your competence, people of your responsibility from government, the public sector, private sector, civil society, and anybody that we feel that has the competence to come on board and share with us his or her experience in this. So today we want to address legal issues as far as real estate is concerned, land matters in the Gambia. But before we start, maybe can you please tell our listeners, who you are? So you introduce yourself and your background and the role you play at the ministry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njie. First and foremost, I must say I'm humbled by your allusion to my competence, and I'll be doing a disservice to all my seniors in the legal profession if I were to take all the accolades without, leaving some for them. My name is Kimbeng Tah. I'm a Principal State Counsel at the Attorney General's Chambers and Ministry of Justice. I've been at the Ministry of Justice for the past 9 years. I am at the Department of Civil Litigation and International Law, where we basically deal with everything that is not criminal prosecution. So my day-to-day work basically entails advising government and government departments on various issues of the law, advising parastatals and public enterprises, as well as representing the government in court, be it at the Superior Court, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, when it comes to civil litigation, both defending government as well as initiating the claims. And over the past 9 years, I've been fortunate to be involved in a significant number of cases which have to do with land disputes. So I think as a result of my involvement in these disputes, I've gained some insight into the land tenure system in the Gambia. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, let's start now in detail on the questions. And
Yes.
The first one that we have is, as a legal practitioner, what is your role in land ownership? And you can address both as a public servant and also maybe advise us on as a private practitioner.
Okay, I think I have to first of all say from my perspective as a public legal practitioner, I wouldn't be in an absolute position to speak as to the experience of private practitioners, but then I can give some insights into what a private practitioner does. As I've previously mentioned, my role as a public practitioner is limited to representing government's interests advising government departments, in this scenario, the Ministry of Lands and Regional Government, or the Department of Lands, or the Department of Physical Planning, as pertains to legal issues. And that role also pertains to defending government in court when it comes to litigation initiated by landowners, which very often includes the Department of Lands as a litigant, or the Minister of Lands as a litigant in these cases. From a perspective of a private legal practitioner, what private legal practitioners mostly do is represent the interests of private clients, which would be in this case be the landowners, be it individuals or companies. So in that role, they basically help the landowners draft their contracts, that's the land sale contracts or the leases or the deeds, and as well, the very important role that private legal practitioners play is carrying out due diligence for landowners or prospective buyers of land before they proceed to doing land transactions.
What are the different processes of acquiring land?
To address the different steps, it will also be essential to assess the different ways in which land can be acquired. So generally speaking, land, to my mind, land can be acquired in 5 different ways. I'm going to list all the 5, but I'll focus on 3 or 4 particular
Please go
ways.
ahead, yeah.
So first and foremost, we all know land can be acquired by inheritance. When you inherit from a parent or from a friend. The second way land can be acquired is when it's given to you as a gift, very often by an instrument we call a deed of gift. Now, the most important ones, which are the commercial ways of acquiring land, are one, acquisition of land by assignment, that's when it's a leasehold property, or by conveyance, when it's a freehold property, or you can also acquire land, which is communal land, from the traditional owners of the land. So when it comes to leasehold property, a leasehold property is a piece of land that is literally state land. It's owned by the government, and then the Minister of Lands, by virtue of the State Lands Act, has the power to lease out that land to a private holder. In the case of a Gambian citizen for a term of 99 years, in the case of a non-Gambian entity or citizen for a term of 25 years. So the steps in acquiring land are, if an individual sees a piece of land that they're interested in and it's state land and it's not acquired yet, you can approach the minister by application. So you go to the Department of Lands, there's a form for I think $100, you purchase the form, you fill it out and you state the purpose for which the land is meant, and then you submit that form. Now the Department of Lands carries out an assessment, and if you're successful on your application, the Minister of Lands issues you a lease subject to certain conditions for that land. And in exchange for that lease, you most often pay what we call land rent, which is it's not a significant amount, but it's just sometimes $300, $350 to $1,000 is the annual land rent for that piece of land. Now, the next step is the holder of a government lease might decide to alienate that lease, to sell it to another person. Now, to acquire that, since the lease has already been issued, you do what we call an assignment. So since he has rights from the government, he now assigns those rights to a third party by what we call a deed of assignment. Now, if an individual is desirous of getting an assignment of a leased property, the first step will always be to do due diligence. Now, due diligence is the process by which a prospective buyer goes through to look at the owner of the land, whether the person who's selling the land actually has title to that land. If they don't have title to the land, have they been authorized, or have they been given the power of attorney by the real owner of the land to dispose of the land? You also have to find out whether there are any encumbrances or liens on the land. For example, is there a mortgage on the land? Has the land been put as a security in exchange for a loan? So those are things you have to find out. Now, it's very essential in that you can do the process by yourself, but very often I advise you to use the services of somebody who's qualified in this field, who has experience in this, and who can carry out this due diligence for you. So the first place to go will be the Registrar General's Department, which houses the Deeds Department. Now in the Deeds Department, you have the Deeds Registry, where you can actually go through, it's a public archive, where you could go through all the archives, you look at the land, and you see whether there are any encumbrances on the land, or whether there's something called a caveat. A caveat is when somebody lays a particular claim on land and enters a caveat, which simply says, this is a warning that anybody who's interested in doing any transactions over this land, beware that such and such a lien is attached to this land. So once you've done your due diligence and you're satisfied that the land is unencumbered and the person who's trying to sell the land actually owns the land, the next thing is you do the negotiations. Once you do the negotiations, now a deed of assignment is drafted. Then again, a lawyer comes in. You need a lawyer who will help you draft the deed of assignment, look at all the provisions to be sure that your interests are protected. Now, because it's a lease, the terms of the original lease always have a clause which states that the lease may not be assigned without the consent of the minister. So you have to ensure that an application is made to the minister for consent to assign. And once you secure this consent, it gives the go-ahead for the seller to transfer to the buyer. Now, once you buy and the documents have been executed, then there are other steps such as taxes, fiscal steps that come in to finalize the whole process of sale. Now, that's for leases.
Yeah, but let me just come in there.
Yes.
I just wanted to complete now, exhaust
Yes.
purchasing a leased document, which
Yeah.
these days, some people, I mean, the leased document is called a title deed, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes, it is.
So it's a deed.
It's a deed, yes.
And the deed, you have a title on the deed.
You have a title on
So
the deed.
basically what you're doing is to transfer ownership into the new buyer.
Yes,
And that's when you prepare a deed of assignment.
yes. Yeah.
Now, what you have just said that for me sounds a bit complicated. I mean,
Okay.
So you've just said that you should go through that process.
Yes.
Who does that? I mean, the individual does it, or would you recommend that somebody else does it?
I'll most often recommend that you have a hands-on approach to it, follow up, but also you can secure the services of a lawyer.
Yeah, so what would be your advice? Because
Yes.
here we are, I think what we're trying to do here
Yes.
is to make sure that people do the right thing
Yes.
and be safe. So as a legal practitioner
Yes.
and seeing what is happening in the country today,
Yes.
what's your advice if anybody wants to buy a titled property?
Title property. If you want to buy a title property, my advice to you is seek the advice of a lawyer.
Of a lawyer.
Secure the services of a lawyer.
Yeah.
It might be slightly expensive, but long term it's going to save you a lot more.
Please seek the advice of a lawyer. Once you seek the advice of a lawyer, as the English saying says, a sticking time
Saves 9.
saves 9.
Exactly.
So this is a lesson you have learned on this issue about land ownership and buying of leased land. We will now take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue.
TAF Africa Global is the first and biggest private real estate developer in the Gambia, with a presence in 7 other African countries. We are launching the development of the first smart and most modern office and retail towers in the Gambia, called TAF Twins, located in the heart of the Canifing institutional area and 10 minutes drive from Banjul. TAF Twins is designed to have 5 floors of office spaces ranging from 50 meters square to over 1,000 meters square, 2 elevators, central air conditioning, 24-hour electricity and water supply, with the ground floor reserved for banking, supermarket, restaurant and coffee shops. For your bookings and reservations, please call now on 376-2333 or 776-2333.
Hi again, and welcome to the program. Before the break, we spoke about the issue of buying titled property, leased land. And I think Mr. Tah has done justice to us by explaining the process that you should follow. But Mr. Tah, today I think most common of land purchases by the general public is communal land.
True.
Can you please lead us through, what is the process of buying communal land?
Yes, thank you very much. I think communal land is by far the most dispute-rife aspect of land transactions in the Gambia. And before talking about the steps, it will be important to go through, just give a general overview of communal land in the Gambia. Now, we've explained the 3 main different land tenure systems, which is 1, the freehold property, which is property which is owned by the individual forever in perpetuity without any conditions, as opposed to a leasehold property which is held by the government and given to you for a term, be 25 or 99 years. Now, for communal property, is land that has been occupied by the indigenes or by individuals who've settled in that area and have now claimed that area as theirs, and it's mostly owned by the Kabilo, and the land is administered by the Kabilo head on behalf of the entire community. Now, communal land is an interesting type of land in the sense that under our laws we have 2 systems. So we have the lands in the combos, and then we have the lands in the provinces. Now, the lands in the provinces are administered under a separate act, which is the Land Provinces Act, which governs all land in the provinces. And now when you come to the State Lands Act, that governs all state lands. But under the State Lands Act, certain communal lands, certain lands that were previously held under communal ownership have now been declared to be State Lands Act, to be state lands. And that is mostly Combo North, Combo South, Combo East. And you have the demarcations from Cape Point, Atlantic Ocean, all the way to Kartong and all the way to Abuko and Kobile. So all these lands have now been declared as state lands. Now, what happened after the declaration of these lands as state land is that anybody who holds communal land...
Sorry, can I just ask, when was it declared state land? Would you know?
I am not very sure. I don't want to give any. I don't want to give an inaccurate date, but my bet is on 1994. Yes, 1994. Yeah. There was a legal notice. I think legal notice number 6 of 1994, 6 or 7 of 1994, if I'm not mistaken. So by that legal notice, all these lands were declared as state lands. So what happens is that that land is no longer vested in those communities, but the land is now vested in the state. So what happens is the state takes the land, but it administers it for the direct or indirect benefit of the communities within which the land is located. So once you own communal land within these areas that have now been declared state lands, you are now called a deemed lessee.
So repeat it again.
You're called a deemed lessee.
A deemed lessee.
A deemed lessee,
okay.
Yes. So you're not a lessee, but because you own land within an area declared as state land, you are now termed a deemed lessee. Now, an individual who holds land, who's a deemed lessee, can make an application to the minister for his deemed lease to be converted to a proper lease, and he'll be issued with a lease document. And also, the law provides for a scenario in which the minister, for example, will give a time frame for all deemed lessees to convert their titles to proper leases. And then if you fail to convert your title to a proper lease within that period, you become what they call a tenant at will.
Tenant at will.
Tenant at will. So which means at any time the government can dispossess you of that property without paying any compensation. So now when you go to the land, the provincial land, that's the real communal land, which is administered under the Land Provinces Act. The land is held by the Kabilos and administered by the Kabilos for the benefit of the Kabilos. So the Kabilos can generally now alienate this land, sell this land to third parties, and that's how a lot of people come to own land within these areas. But one common misconception is that the land is owned by the Kabilo head. The land is not owned by the Kabilo head. The land is owned by the entire community. The Kabilo head only administers it on behalf of the community, making sure that the community has enough land for farming and enough land to carry out community activities. So now what happens is all land in the provinces still is vested in the district authority. So although the Kabilo administers the land is vested in the district authority. So the district authority usually would be what you call the chiefs, district chiefs. So the land is vested in the district chiefs, and the district chiefs now can issue leases. So what happens is if an individual goes and purchases communal land, you can then make an application to the district chief for a lease, and the district chief will now issue you a lease, which is a provincial lease, but also in similar form to the kind of lease you will get from the minister. So that's how you get.
So are you saying now that these communal land in the provinces,
yes,
that you get a lease from the district chief,
yes,
and not the minister of local government,
yes,
lands and religious affairs?
Yes, not the minister of local government, from the district chief. So what will usually happen is the common practice is you approach the alcalo of the area, and the alcalo now makes an allocation to you, and he issues you with the alcalo papers. Now you take your papers and you go to the area council and you pay the necessary taxes. You get what we call a certificate of occupancy. You go to the physical planning department in that particular region and you get a land use report. So the land use report will state whether it's for industrial, agricultural, or for residential purposes. So once you have those documents, you now take those documents to the district chief and you make an application to be issued with a lease. Okay,
great. I want us to focus on the combo, as you say, the combo to banco, because this is where the problems are, as regards to real estate.
Yes.
Because it's very common these days that people are buying land all the way to Pirang, to Farato,
Yes.
but mainly for residential. Now, in terms of land use, because the land generally that are bought from these communities are what? For what use are they for? I mean, agricultural, it's definitely not for residential at the time that they buy.
Yes, yes. What we've seen is a majority of the lands that are obtained from the communities are for agricultural use.
So they're for agricultural use? For
agricultural use.
Yeah. And
so
is there any size, any limitation to size that you can buy or not? So when they buy from the local community,
yes,
they're buying land which is for agricultural use.
Yes.
And then when they buy for agricultural use, is there any limitation on the size that you can buy from them or not?
There is usually a limitation of what you can buy. For example, a non-indigent of that area who is not from that particular region.
Yes. What is a region? What? Kabilo, what do you define
Kabilo,
as
the
region?
district.
The district.
The district.
Yes.
Yes. If you're not from that district, which means you're not an indigent of that area, you cannot own above a certain hectares of land. I'm not very sure, but I should think 2.25. I'll be able to find out later, but I'm not very sure. But you cannot buy, you cannot hold above a certain number of hectares of land within that community. You're restricted to that amount of land. Now, to what you raised a very important point, which is a lot of the land is first acquired as agricultural land, but very often that land is in turn sold, demarcated and sold for residential purposes. So there is actually a procedure under the law for that, which is also something a lot of purchasers need to look out for. When you're purchasing land, you need to look, first of all, does the individual have a certificate of occupancy? And do they have is there a land use report or land use certificate for that piece of land? Now, if it's agricultural use, there is no impediment to agricultural use being converted to residential use. However, there are certain procedures. Now, depending on the size of the land, be it 0 to 1 hectare, 1 to 5 hectare, different sizes, if an individual wishes to convert agricultural use to residential use, there are two things that will happen. Depending on the size of the land, government will take a percentage of the land back. It goes up to 50% of the land will be repossessed by government, and then you'll be able to convert the remaining 50%. And then you'll be liable to pay a fee to government in cash, ranging from $3 all the way to $17 per hectare of land that is being converted to residential land. Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Tah, I want to play here the devil's advocate, yes, or what I know is very common in our industry, which is the real estate industry.
Yes.
Because what do you see most of the time? An individual comes into the real estate agents or real estate, whatever they are called. And we would normally find that they've bought a parcel of land from the alcalos. You go in there, you find that there is an estate that is all demarcated into plots. So an individual comes in and then it is sold to him. Now, what does he has to do to be assured that whatever he's buying has gone through that process? That what he's buying is not agricultural, is residential, and after buying it, what does he have to do?
Yes, I think the root problem is the real estate sector is not regulated per se. There are no serious regulations for the real estate sector and how real estate land acquisition, there's no legal framework for real estate land acquisition per se. So what an individual needs to do is to make sure he looks at what we call the root of title. You need to trace, similar to what you do for a leasehold, you need to do a search.
Yeah, do a search.
But then because you don't have registries for communal land, you need to go, it's more difficult, you need to go down to the communities. And the first step is to go to the alcalos. And you find out from the alcalos, has this land been allocated by you to X individual? Now if the alcalo agrees that that land has been allocated to X individual, now you go to the area council and you can find out, because the area council, for purposes of collecting rates, has a register of all landowners under its jurisdiction. So you go to the register of the area council and you find out who is the owner of this particular piece of land according to your records. And then the area council confirms. Now, if it tallies with the alcalo's records, then you're on the right track. Now, if the only documents that have been presented to you are communal papers, what we call communal papers, that's the certificate of occupancy, the alcalo, what it's generally called the alcalo paper, and the land use report, then your title is less secure than somebody else who, for example, a real estate company which gets all these papers and goes all the way to the district chief stage and acquires a provincial lease. Now, when they acquire a provincial lease, and that provincial lease has a sketch plan which outlines the type of area, the purpose of it will usually be for residential, the sketch plan, as well as the physical planning approval to demarcate that into various plots of land. That's a more secure title than the Alcalo papers. Because unfortunately, what we've seen is that the Alcalo papers are no longer secure. We've seen many instances where there's 2 or 3 Alcalo papers over the same piece of land. For example, an Alcalo gives an allocation and passes away. His son comes along, gives an allocation over the same piece of land, and that causes a conflict between the 2 papers. Now, as I said previously, communal land is held for the benefit of the community. But on the pain of sounding controversial or causing controversy, some, not all, Alcalos have tended to treat these lands as their personal property. So very often an Alcalo may rightfully allocate a piece of land, but then the family disagrees. So that causes conflict and that threatens your title. So my advice is, if you're going to buy land from a real estate company, look for the best title. Look for a real estate company that has a lease, be it a provincial lease, and they have provincial lease states the purpose, which is residential property, and it has an approved sketch plan which shows the demarcation of the title. Because do not forget, to assign a provincial lease, you will still need the consent of the grantee, the grantor, that is the district authority. And in order to do that, you'll have to carve out pieces from that lease to assign. So he needs to have the permission to do that. And the only way you can know that is by looking at the sketch plan and seeing whether he has approval to demarcate and assign.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Tah. I think this is quite informative, and you've taken us through the process of acquiring land which is under the community, communal land. And I think it is most common today that affordable land, I'll call it what is affordable. I mean, from here to Brikama and a bit beyond, that people go in and buy a demarcated plot of land. And let's assume the most common these days is about 20 by 25.
Yes.
And most of the time what you do is you walk into an office, somebody calls himself a real estate agent, and then shows you a plan that is demarcated, marked and numbered, and then shows you a plot, and then start collecting money. They issue with a receipt, and yes, you think that you have genuine title or ownership to this plot.
Yes.
But from what we've gathered from you, I mean, there's a process that you need to do a due diligence.
Yes, there is a
or
process.
to do a search.
A search, yes.
I think probably we'll have a program where we really go into detail.
Yes.
Because this is supposed to help those who are out there who wants to acquire land. And it's not their fault. And what you've explained now, it's quite a long process.
It is.
So I guess probably in summarizing, the same advice will come in here, that don't take that risk of having to purchase the land directly from the real estate agents. I think honestly the advice should be that please seek the advice of a lawyer, a legal practitioner.
Yes.
Again, if you do so, then the lawyer probably will be able to go through this process.
Yes.
Any last word on this?
Yes, just to add on to that, I think I understand the need and the desire to own land, but it's also essential that people are careful when carrying out these land transactions and don't go for price, and in going for a cheaper piece of land you sacrifice security. Go for land where the real estate company has title to their own land and they're selling. And if you're not going to go for land where the real estate company owns the land, make sure the real estate company has the authority of the owners of the land to sell on their behalf. But my advice is go for the most secure form of title, which is buy from the owner of the land and not from the agent of the owner of the land.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tah. I mean, again, we're most grateful that you found time,
It's a pleasure.
To be here.
It's a pleasure.
And to give this detailed explanation on land acquisition.
Yes.
We'll not let you go. We'll have to invite you in other episodes.
I'll be glad.
So that we can talk about legal issues as far as land matters are concerned.
Sure.
So viewers, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. Somebody who's well qualified as a lawyer, working for the state, but also giving his opinion on what you should do when you acquire land. Thank you viewers for watching this time, and until we come your way again, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on the link below. Thank you so much.
The development of our Dalaba estate commenced in November 2018. Today, Dalaba comprises of over 350 affordable and quality homes with fenced and gated service plots. The estate boasts features such as surfaced dressed roads with interlocking bricks, solar street lights, and beautiful landscaping to be further complemented with 1,500 fruit trees. With accessibility to water and electricity, fenced service plot owners continue to develop their properties within a period of 24 months. TAF Africa Global has transformed a 20-hectare undeveloped plot into a fully functional residential estate, housing families comfortably. TAF Africa Global. Our experience is global, our focus is Africa. For information on any of our current and future developments, please call +220 776 2333 or 376 2333.